And Marcus, I have this question is for you. So in this poll, Climate Nexus's poll that I referenced, and in a lot of our polling, we use the term natural gas because it's what folks are most familiar with. But we use methane gas in our framing because it doesn't play into the industry's framing. And people are worried about methane and supportive of methane regulation. How have you seen different frames around fossil fuels in your own work? And do you have thoughts about what to call a natural gas?
I mean, how about poison? I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, the beauty of the industry is with anything, they're going to greenwash. They're going to have every few years a new iteration of a marketing campaign with a new name. That's the game. And I would say that they've been quite successful, to be honest with you. The Renew Natural Gas campaign has been very beneficial. They've had some very clever commercials. There's been a lot of people who have remained silent as their elected officials have put forth new legislation to make more investments in fossil fuels. So I would say from that standpoint, they've been very successful. And I think that that's why it's up to us to continue to put that same exact energy into dispelling the myths, to try to pass methane off as renewable is ridiculous, but they're getting away with it. So I think sometimes when it comes to strategy, we don't invest enough of our resources into dispelling myths. We kind of think that they'll go away, but they won't. Like whatever energy someone puts into a campaign to trick someone, we need to put that same energy into bringing them back to earth, because it's too lopsided. It's far too lopsided. Now, of course, we know they have the money, and we know they have the resources to do more. But I think at every turn, we need to explain to people, no, it's not renewable. That's something they made up. And they're getting away with making it up. And this is why it's important for you to contact your legislators to educate them. Because the other piece of this puzzle, sometimes our legislators aren't fully educated. A lot of their information comes from lobbyists. So we have to be proactive with sharing information with our elected officials, because sometimes they literally go off of a script. And I've seen this with my own eyes. So we have to make sure that we're taking data, and a great conversation from Anastasia and Betsy about what it takes to get the right data. Let's make sure we have representatives from these different communities a part of the process coming up with the criteria, so you're not looking silly on the back end. So it's important that we make sure we have representation at the table when it comes to the formulation. Let's do that first so we can get accurate data. Then once we get that data, we'll use that to encourage our funders to say, we need to push out the truth. And the truth is, this is hurting us. The truth is, we need to make the same investments into transitioning away from this that we're making in other areas. It's that serious. It's tied to farming things that are absolutely derailing our populations. Derailing. It's tied to many of those things. So it is urgent. It needs to be taken seriously, and we need to confront this the way we confront every other thing that we call a crisis.
I have a quick question. Sort of speaking on the distrust of researchers polling that Marcus was referencing, all the talk and less investments that tend to go into these things. I'm curious, how have people worked on building trust and sort of diversifying economically and otherwise the responses to this polling, and how do you build that I guess legitimacy in your various organizations?
Marcus, you want to take that one?
I guess for us, it's a work in progress. It's understanding that the trust takes time. Trust is an investment. Trust is consistency over time, and being very blunt with our partners that we work with, and explaining that, hey, you may have the $1 million idea, but you literally have hundreds of years of bad publicity and bad PR. And it's going to take some time for people to let their guards down, even though you have something that's extremely beneficial for them. And I think that people have to become a lot more cognizant of the reality that the same effort you put into writing a grant, you got to put that same effort into showing these communities that you can be trusted. And that takes time, it takes energy, and it takes an understanding that someone is going to say no. Like you can't have thin skin when we've literally had hundreds of years of oppression. You can't take things personally. So I think it takes consistent outreach, creativity, and open-mindedness to show people that no, we literally care about your well-being. That was our predecessor. We're trying to do something differently, and we just want you to trust us to do the right thing. But to even get to that conversation, it's going to take the I words, investments in those areas so that people believe that you're really not just flying in to use a community to get another grant, which has kind of been the model in our communities for quite some time.
Marcus, you want to close this out?
Sure. And let me apologize. I look to the left often because my daughter's home and I'm looking at her on the camera, and I see her now with a bag of pretzels, and she loves pretzels. And I have those pretzels at the highest part of our pantry. So what I'm sitting here figuring out is how in the heck did she get it? And as I'm looking at that, I'm thinking about this conversation, because when it comes to polling, if there's an investment, if there is something worthwhile for someone to be involved, they're going to participate. And what are we giving people? What is on the other end of the data? I think it's important that we understand that investments beget investments. So if we are making investments in these different communities, then the communities will be invested into providing you data. Right now, people say, we tell you what we feel, and then it doesn't amount to anything. So I think it's important for us to remember that people are tired of being case studies. We are ready for data to translate into action. We're telling you over and over again, yes, we're sick of asthma. We know that for so long we thought that it was only mold causing asthma, but now we're learning that the nitrogen dioxide that's coming from our gas stove is also causing asthma. We're tired of that. People are telling you that, but they're also telling you, because we live in a racist, white supremacist world, the racial wealth gap in our state is outrageous. So I don't know what my electricity rates are going to be if I completely transition. So we have to keep in mind that economics plays a role in people's views of climate awareness, climate change, environmental justice. We have to factor all of that in. So I think it's important with everything we do, we have to realize that there's a place we want to get to, and there's a reality we have to live in. And those things can coexist. We have to stop acting like there's one or the other. We have to know we have to live with gas right now and transition into a place where we don't have gas, but we have to make the investments now so that the transition makes sense and would actually be doable. So I think that so many times when I hear these different conversations, I hear it like it's an either or. Like, no, you heard all of my titles. I have a gas stove. I can't afford to transition yet. I'm going to need some assistance in order to do that. So if I need assistance, then that means the person who's living in the inner city in a project or a densely populated community, and they don't have the funds like that, they're going to need a lot more assistance. So it comes down to the investment in people. Do we care? Do we care that our seniors and our young people are having to have their health impacted on a daily basis by something? You can't wear a mask, people aren't wearing a mask in the house. Do we care that every day there are appliances in our homes that are making people's lives expectancy shorter? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like forever, for 2 years, we've had a campaign, we're in this together. For that, But are we in this together for people who relatives are dying? Are we in it for that? So I think we have to really ask ourselves these really, existential questions about like what really matters. Are we here for the moment? Or are we here for the long run? And I think that these conversations are really important. That's why I'm grateful to Climate Nexus for having events like this and providing data like this, because this is the data, irrefutable data that shows that the people want change. And now our elected officials have to take the data and bring the change.
Thank you, Marcus. And we are grateful for activists like you. So thank you.